Hey there, Grateful Gang. It's Lauren Blanchard Zalewski with Attitude of Gratitude with Chronic Pain, which if you're watching live, you know that because you can only watch it live here in AoG. But I'll be putting this on YouTube on our YouTube channel later on. So if you don't know me, hi there. Like I said, I'm Lauren and I'm the founder and admin of Attitude of Gratitude with Chronic Pain, or AoG as we call it. Also Gratitude Addict. And this is my very first broadcast of what I'm calling right now AoG Sunday Night Live, purely for the fact that I didn't know what else to call it. So if anybody has any great ideas, throw them my way. But the purpose of it is, last year I was doing a weekly live show that I called Hump Day Happiness. And it was basically talking about all things gratitude and happiness, probably similar to what this broadcast is going to be like. And why I stopped it, I'm not sure. Maybe I got sick, or I'm not really sure. Then it just kind of got away from me. And I've been meaning to get back to it. So tonight is episode 1. Thank you for being here. Again, we'll be talking about things relating to gratitude, of course, happiness, living the chronic life, being a chronic thriver, chronic pain and illness, disability, things that we talk about in the group, but perhaps going into a little bit more depth and you hearing my thoughts on it. And I would love to hear questions from all of you also. Now, this is, I'm using a different program than I used for Hump Day Happiness. This is on Facebook Live. So it'll be a little bit of a learning curve for me to get used to. If you have a question, I think you can just put it in the comments, and as long as I can get to it, I would be happy to. I would love for this to be an interactive thing. So thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. I like live because it's authentic and you never know what's going to happen. And with me, technological things tend to happen. So you might be in for a laugh or two. But the topic I picked for tonight is something that's near and dear to my heart. And I realize I'll be kind of preaching to the choir to those of you who are watching live, because the topic is connectedness and community in relation to living with a chronic life, with chronic pain and illness. We did this topic during our chat week last week, and it was a good one that I kind of wanted to extend, because I think there's so much to it that we don't necessarily, well, I think we know the benefits, but I don't think we necessarily know just how many benefits there are to being connected, to be part of a group, and to feel a part of a community when you're living this difficult life with chronic pain and illness. So again, I know I'm probably preaching to the choir tonight, but maybe I'll give you a tidbit or two that you didn't know. I wanted to start off with a quote from the amazing researcher Brene Brown from the University of Houston. She's a social work researcher, and you perhaps know her books about vulnerability and shame and guilt. She's got a couple killer TED Talks too. But the quote from her is, in regard to community and connectedness, she says, "A deep sense of love and belonging is an irresistible need of all people. We are biologically, cognitively, physically, and spiritually wired to love, to be loved, and to belong. When those needs are not met, we don't function as we were meant to. We break, we fall apart, we numb, we ache, we hurt others, we get sick." Boom. She is brilliant, and that quote, I think, says it all. And a lot of that had happened to me prior to getting a community and feeling connected to a group. My own story with support groups, it only started 6 years ago, actually. Prior to that, I've been sick for about 20 years, and I don't think a doctor ever really told me that I should belong to a support group. If you can believe that, maybe you guys can believe that. I don't recall a doctor ever saying, hey, you should probably join a support group because even though you're in pain, the emotional stuff gets bad too. I don't think anybody ever said that. However, my mom, Sandy Blanchard, hi Mom, she always wanted me to go to a support group. She would find groups for my particular illness that she'd say, hey, why don't you go? And honestly, I always answered the same way. I remember very clearly that I just thought it sounded too depressing, that I know what the symptoms are. I know what the problems are. why would I want to sit in a room with a bunch of other people, and kind of vent about my problems? It sounded really depressing, but I didn't think about the whole picture, and I did not know exactly what the benefits were. And for me, the benefits are unbelievable. It's probably my biggest tool in my tool belt in living with chronic pain and illness. So what had happened, as many of you know, I hit a really bad rock bottom six years ago with a DUI. Woke up in the hospital. I was self-medicating with alcohol for my physical pain and my emotional pain. Hid it from my family somehow, but woke up in the hospital not knowing how I got there. And somebody was looking out for me because, thank God, I did not hurt anybody or myself. And after that, obviously, some action needed to be taken. So I was lucky enough to be able to be a patient at the Chronic Pain and Recovery Program at Silver Hill Hospital in New Haven, Connecticut. New Canaan, Connecticut. Unfortunately, hey, Seaton, thanks for joining in. Unfortunately, the program doesn't exist anymore, which is such a shame. But you can find my mentor, Dr. Bruce Singer, here on Facebook in Blocked Up Moments for Recovery. I highly recommend his group and his book. Anyhow, so I ended up going to this program for 30 days. And what was the treatment? Basically, talking to people. And the idea just horrified me, but I knew I didn't have much choice. So the days were basically spent in different groups, talking about our pain, of course, the alcohol part of it. And I'm not sure along the way where I realized how helpful it was. But it definitely did, and it didn't take long. It was, a bunch of people with similar stories. Our issues were all different, but the way it affected us emotionally was the same. And that ended up being the surprising part of it for me, is what we talked about was how it affected us emotionally. And that was like a, light bulb went off for me that this is really where I need help. I don't need to sit around talking about the depressing stuff, the symptoms and all of that. I mean, I do, don't get me wrong, I do. And I have other avenues for that. But the emotional part is really where I was in need of some big time help. So I spent the month there. Also was introduced to Chronic Pain Anonymous, which is a 12-step group for people that live with chronic pain and illness. It's not relating to sobriety. It's using the 12 steps to get what I kind of call emotional sobriety, emotional serenity, while living with chronic pain and illness. So I urge you to check them out at chronicpainanonymous.org. But when I got home, that's when I started my own Chronic Pain Anonymous group, and that's when I formed Attitude of Gratitude with Chronic Pain. And the reason why I formed AoG was because I was a member of a lot of Facebook groups, and they were all great and gave me great ideas. But I felt often that I couldn't escape from the negative aspects, and I wanted to go someplace to be kind of inspired and motivated. Hi, Linda. Thanks for joining in. Linda's my co-admin. Hi, Linda. Hopefully this shows up. The other program I was using before didn't allow me to interact, which kind of stunk. So hopefully this works. So AoG we created as a place where you're not allowed to complain, and it's not that we're against complaining. It's just an escape for a little while, maybe in addition to the other groups you belong to. But it's just a place you can go 24/7 in order to feel inspired, motivated, and be happy, and don't have to worry about hearing about everybody else's, blood work and things like that. And what happens in that group is just magic. Somehow you get all these people with a common way of thinking. You put them together and they talk, and what happens is something that I never could have imagined. I don't think any of us could imagine it. And anybody who's a member of AoG will tell you exactly the same thing. And there's a lot of reasons why community and connectedness work. Now, prior to going to Silver Hill, I was very isolated. I had family all around me. I had friends that would drop in from time to time. But I could have a million people around me, and I felt like the loneliest person in the world because I felt like nobody understood. I didn't want to bother anybody with my troubles. I didn't want to talk about it. And that really was to my detriment because I think these things just kind of marinated inside of me, and they stewed and they kept going in my head around and around. We can be our own worst enemies, especially when we isolate. So connectedness and community are really, really important for us to get out of our heads and focus on not only ourselves, but on others. So there's the social aspect, which is a really great plus, because a lot of us either cannot leave our homes, or it's difficult to leave our homes, or whatever. We can be social through an online group like AoG. We can be social any time of the day or night, right from the comfort of our own home. Boom, it's fantastic. I, don't love being sick all the time, but I often say that if I had to be sick, I'm glad it's in this day and age of the internet where there's Facebook Live, where I can interact with you guys. There's Zoom, which is where we do our Wednesday Flush the Format live chats, and that's a video chat. You can do video on or off. There's all sorts of things. Of course, Facebook. Facebook groups are a force to be reckoned with. We're at just about 5,000 people in AoG, which is just unbelievable to me. But again, the social aspect is so important. That's something that many of us had lost prior to becoming a member of a group. Accountability, it's not that we need to be held accountable, but when you belong to a community, you kind of get to know each other, and you really do get to know each other, which is a surprise to me. If you don't hear from somebody for a few days or a while or whatever, you kind of check in on them. We look out for each other because we care, and we sort of know each other, and if somebody's maybe going through a bad time, we can check in on them over private message. So the accountability factor, it's all part of the socialization stuff, but it makes you feel really good when people care that much to check on you. Support is probably the biggest one. That's something that we lose when we don't talk about our chronic pain and illness is, we can talk to our family, and even the most supportive family, they just don't understand. They couldn't possibly understand what we go through, nor would we want them to, right? But having the support from people who do understand, who do live what you live with day in, day out, and you don't need to give any disclaimers, you don't need to say, sorry, but any of that stuff just goes out the window because you have the support of people who basically, even if your problems are different, they're exactly like you and how they feel. So that is really, really important too. Usefulness. Many of us, when we get sick or disabled or have chronic pain, we have to leave our jobs. We're maybe out on disability or workman's comp or something like that. We can no longer do a lot of the things that we used to do, and it's really hard to not compare. So a lot of times we start to feel useless. I can't do this anymore. I used to be able to blah, blah, blah. And it really can be a downer and get us very depressed. When you join a community like AoG, it's an exchange, an equal exchange of ideas and thoughts and love and all that really good stuff, all wrapped into one. You feel useful because when you share yourself, you are actually helping others, whether you believe that or not. It's the absolute truth. And by helping others, we help ourselves. It really does make you feel useful. And it's a beautiful feeling. And I think that's part of the success and the magic of AoG is that we care as much about everybody else as we care about ourselves. It's really beautiful. And you feel useful. You really do. Relatability goes with support. Again, that it's really nice to be able to relate to people, your peers, because a lot of times when you're if you're at places with non-sick people, it's hard to relate. They can hop out of bed and hop in the shower. There's no hopping here, right? I know you guys know what I'm talking about. And gosh, what I wouldn't give to be able to hop in the shower or just get up, get out of bed and get going in the morning. You know what I mean? That's just a small example. But we can kind of laugh with each other in our group and say, hey, I haven't showered in a week. And me too, me too. We get a hefty dose of the me toos when you are in a community such as ours or others as well. Any community that makes you feel connected. The me toos are great because they make you feel, again, not so unique, not so alone and isolated. So that relatability is big. The ability to be vulnerable and honest. a lot of times we have to sugarcoat things, or we feel like we need to sugarcoat things for our family, our friends that maybe ask how we are. And I'm sure that they mean, how are you? But they don't really want to know, well, this and that and the other thing, because they don't understand. But with each other in our communities, we can be honest. We don't really have to say, hey, TMI, because we've heard it all, you know. The vulnerability, the peeling away the layers of the onion skin to really get what's deep inside of us and be able to share that requires a lot of trust. And that trust you get from being a part of a community, a good one in AoG, of course, I keep mentioning, because that's the one I love the most. But any online community that makes you feel like that is very positive. And then finally, learning opportunities. You can learn a lot from each other. We all go, trial and error, trying things that work for us to make us happy, more fulfilled, less pain, whatever. A lot of things don't work. We know that, but some things do. And when they do, we want to shout it from the rooftops and tell everybody else about it. So that's something that a community is good for. Hey, this worked for me, and it may not work for others, but what if it does for one other person? It's fantastic. And then you get ideas from others on things that they've tried. So that exchange, that support, the socialization, it's all so very important for our overall wellness in dealing with our chronic illness. There's so much more to dealing with it than medications and the pain itself. There's a whole picture, and our heads and our hearts really need some work, and that's where community helps. One piece of information that I came across today that I think you guys will find so interesting, because I do, is I found a study from the Institute for Behavioral Health in the Netherlands. They did a study on people that lurk in online support groups versus people that post all the time. Now, I've kind of wondered this before, what are the benefits between, what do you get out of an online support group as a lurker and as a poster? Believe it or not, the studies show that you get exactly the same benefits either way. Really, isn't that cool? Lurkers, if they lurk and they read everything, the benefits on their empowerment were exactly the same as those that post all the time. Now, there we have a lot of people who are shy, that just don't like to participate, that like to be in the background, and we never in our group, we'd never reward the people that post a lot. We are all exactly the same, those that post a lot versus those who don't. All 5,000 of us are treated exactly the same, because some people just don't like to post. But I found that so interesting that you can get the benefits either way. The key is that self-connectedness, I find out, is a perceived thing. So if you feel connected, you are connected. So perhaps you read somebody's post every day that posts every day, and maybe you like his or her post, and you feel connected to them. Whether or not you respond, as long as you feel connected to them, you get the benefits. Isn't that so awesome? I know. I loved that. So I'm going to end there. I hope that I've convinced you to be part of an online community for that sense of connection. Maybe you're part of, if you're live, you are a part of AoG, and thank you for being a part of AoG. If you're watching us on YouTube, I hope you consider joining us. And if not, please look into other communities that you can join. There's so many on Facebook, trillions of them, I swear. Chronic Pain Anonymous is also a wonderful organization, and they have meetings in different formats all across the world. But I wanted to leave you with a reading from this book called The Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo. There's a great reading on connection that I just wanted to end you guys with. It's fantastic. It's from June 19th. It's called A Wider Horizon. Whether it be physics or architecture or Eastern forms of meditation or Western forms of prayer, every field of inquiry affirms the fact that the wider our view, the less isolated we are. The more connected we stay to everything larger than us, the less turbulent our time on Earth. This is why it helps to share our journey with others, because in doing so, we become a chorus of voices, and the stress of going solo lessens once we discover that we are not alone. As light, when confined, turns to heat, the stuff of our lives, when confined, ignites brush fires out of our isolation. I felt the difference dramatically when joining a wellness group during my cancer experience. Alone, I was feeling the heat of dying. But once voicing my pain in a circle of others on the same path, my heart relaxed back into the light of living. So when you see someone stumbling forward with a stone in their heart, simply go near them and listen. When the pains of living feel sharp, open up your attention and give it freely, and the connections will even out their sharpness. When things feel heavy, reach out to whomever is near and distribute the weight. The readings in this book are phenomenal. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I thought it was a great way to end our broadcast tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you come back next week. Sorry, I'm having trouble closing this here. I love you all, and have a great week. Peace and love. Bye, gang.